Hello and welcome to the Dad and Sons Extra this week.
Oh.
As always,
Extra.
I'm here, Liam Edwards.
He's not a dad or son?
Well,
he's an extra?
He might be an extra. I mean, dad usually is singular, then plurals. Dads and sons.
I was really looking forward to being an honorary dad or son.
Yeah.
You're definitely one of them, but we don't want to give away which, do we?
But isn't that the beauty? Like, you never really know.
You never truly know who is your dad or who is your son, to be honest. We, of course, have Matt Visual, my delightful co-host and friend for life.
Hola.
Who seems to have taken up Spanish this week. And, of course,
yes.
Gorg Wiedmann.
Hello.
And with us, super extra special guest for this week. Some might say he is the best anime YouTuber in the world. Factually, I cannot concern that, but I can factually say he's the best Irish anime YouTuber for sure.
I don't know. There's some good guys out there.
Mr. John Super Eyepatch Wolf Walsh is joining us. Hello, sir.
Hello, it's really great to be here. It's kind of surreal because I actually do listen to this podcast, and now it's like, oh god, the podcast voices are talking back.
We paid.
One of them's just like snickering behind the lines here.
As always, we did pay him to say that with all of our guests.
Yeah, that's gonna be in like a check form, was it?
Yeah.
Most of mine and Matt's checks bounce.
Definitely a check for him.
George's is the only ones that get accepted. So we're all here. We have a super special episode with our lovely friend Mr. Eyepatch Wolf here. But guys, I guess we just jump straight into what have we been up to this week. Have any of us played a video game?
I played a video game.
Did it involve romance or history?
God dang it, George.
It's also like 4 years old.
Oh god, just every checkbox George bingo.
You're checking all the boxes, aren't you?
I absolutely am. You guys, do you guys remember Banished from 2014 or 2015?
No, don't remember it. Oh man. Oh, so what have you been doing, Liam?
Oh my god. How is it like something I can't talk about if it's old when it's still a really cool, fun, awesome thing I found out about? I
you
like
played
these...
it already. You played it already.
I did. Okay. There's a mod though. There's a new mod. God damn it! I'm checking off the list, aren't I? Okay. So yeah, in Adventures of George playing 4 to 5 year old games, but with mods that make them cool again. There's a mod for Banished called Colonial Charters. That's not what's important.
Of course, it's called Colonial Charters.
What's important is that it adds an Adam and Eve challenge mode where you begin a village in Banished with just 2 people and have to repopulate the entire society, just starting with them, and it is really interesting seeing the economy develop from that point. You begin with a lot of micromanagement you got to do.
Wait.
Yeah.
2 people.
Yeah, I have some questions.
Let's back
Okay,
up a bit.
Let's. I am open to hearing them and answering them along the way, because I did, as a matter of fact, diagram their family tree on the way through their history, and it.
Okay. So are there other villages, or are you just there's 2 people having babies? Those babies have sex and have other babies.
The branches of this family tree just keep folding back in on themselves.
Well, I had to retry a few times because if you don't build empty houses, the kids don't have a place to bang their siblings in.
Wow.
At that
okay.
point, do you are they able to build farms at that point? I mean, that's a lot of inbreeding.
I know it requires like some degree of cognition, right? But thankfully
the extra horns help with digging.
Billy Town.
God,
Like, on one hand, consenting adults, but on the other,
God.
well, you say that, and yet the game's also like got this historical bend to it that causes them to reach adulthood at like 15. Which I guess, that's not how kids work nowadays.
You get to name them.
But in the time, if you want, okay. Where's my notes? Hang on. Geraldino and Ferdinando. It was Elsa and Geraldino who are the Adam and Eve in this generation. They give birth to
Do you know what's quite telling here? What's quite telling is generally when people have to give names in RPGs or like video games, they tend to use names they've been using for years and years and years. I would like to think that little boy George has been using Fernando and Geraldino and Elsa for like 15 years. Like there's like a Final Fantasy VII save file somewhere where Cloud is named Geraldino. From when George was a kid.
Like, okay, those names are serious enough, but the town that this horrifically inbred family of 30 people now at this point live in is named Dookie Land, so I decided to have a little bit of humor for that. But yeah, no, it's like really interesting seeing how the economy to this game changes from 2 people to 30 people. You begin in a very, very difficult early game where everyone has to do every job. You get Adam and Eve to like swap their stations out of the gatherer's hut to the blacksmith to make tools, to tailor to make clothes. And like during the spring and the summer, during the warm months of every year, you'll have them like churning out just enough to make ends meet. But the interesting thing about this early game curve too is that there's no problem getting them food either. It's not until you have like 30 mouths to feed in the village that it actually becomes a concern over whether or not you're gonna get them enough food, because there's a hunter and gatherer system too that's also very, very generous. And then given the recent video that I made, I can't help but wonder if there's some very interesting implications behind this loop to the gameplay here, if it has some insights to share to us about human nature and what it means to be a man in the unpredictable world of nature. It is truly a god game in the Genesis sense of the word. You are beginning a peoples from just 2 starting ancestors.
And yet you have like buildings and water mills and stuff beforehand.
Oh yeah. I mean, they have some construction knowledge ahead of time. Good thing they don't have to figure.
So it's more of like a post-apocalyptic utopia of rebuilding than it is actually Adam and Eve. Like everything's already there. They're just like, well, we just have to make incestuous babies and survive.
Mm-hmm. The only problem is incest. That's like. Well, they also, you got to make sure they don't starve to death or freeze to death. But besides that, the only other thing they got to worry about
well, I mean, they're already cuddling up
what happens.
So I don't think they're cold.
It's such a great concept for a game, but it has just like this monkey's paw quality to it, where it's just like, oh, I got this fucking brilliant idea for a game. It's going to be so intriguing. It's going to teach you so much about humanity. You will have to fuck your sister.
It's really funny to me also that that actual evolution game came out.
I was literally just going to say that Ancestors came out this week to nobody knowing what the fuck it was. Yeah. Patrick Desai's new game or whatever.
A complete coincidence that I happened to be playing like the Adam and Eve mod for Banished the same week that a game about actually.
Are you going to move on to like incestuous gorillas and apes next?
Maybe. I'm really curious about that game.
It looks super weird, and all the coverage I've seen of it is people being like, I don't know what this is, but I kind of love that, you know? Like it has me genuinely intrigued.
Because all you see is you playing as apes, so eventually you're supposed to become human. Eventually,
I guess but they don't get gradually uglier looking as the generations go on.
Somebody I was watching something about it, and I think somebody spoiled it in the review. They were like, "You never actually see the humans by the end. You end up just getting on the evolutionary line that is scientifically what we found to be as close to apes turning into human as possible. So all you have to do is actually get to that. They still look like apes by the end. So I'm not really sure how much progression you do see. You could be mauled by saber-toothed tigers.
You know, I'm kind of glad you told me that, because I would have wasted my money.
Oh, really? You're in it for the end game? You want to create humanity?
Game, for sure.
He wants to see that incestuous line run all the way to the end.
Yeah, man.
All the way to
us.
Hang on, what are they now? There's 30 people, and I kind of stopped writing down their names after Evie.
Geraldino the 7th.
Yeah.
Wait, okay. What happened after Adam and Eve had kids? Did those kids have kids? Is that what happened?
No, it turns out that they had only one kid because the house didn't have room for
But then,
Wait.
no.
What?
So Adam and Eve grew old. They had long, healthy lives and into their 70s, but their kid was like lonely and sad and lived alone afterwards, and I had to restart.
Oh. So that's how you got 30 people. I was going to say, what the hell?
Wow.
Yeah, where'd the third generation come from?
Even God makes a few mistakes every now. Even God's got to reload a save. Maybe that's what's happening now. Maybe God forgot to like quick load it in 2014.
He's like, shit. I left the Amazon burning for too long. I don't think I can deal with this save anymore. Those guys, those fuckers are toast.
Well, maybe that's kind of what the dinosaurs were. Maybe he was like, you know what? He's like watching like a T-Rex maul like a tiny prehistoric chicken, and he's like, you know what? I don't like this.
Shit, fuck. At least it'll give him some good Discovery Channel specials next time.
Although I imagine he's looking at us now, and his hand is like hovering over F5. He's like, you know what?
So we're off to a great start this week.
He's like, shit. I've seen that anime stuff. That's getting out of control. I need to F5 this.
Kengan Asura.
Kengan Asura? Who made that?
No, he watched Kengan Asura, and his hand like moved off F5. He was like, you know what?
That's it. That's what happened.
If you're ever playing Civ, kids, by God, please quicksave before they invent anime.
As someone who makes his living mostly from anime, I completely agree.
You must have to go through some wild shit.
I've seen some things, guys.
Isn't it weird that you can say anime and I've seen some things and people are like, yeah, I understand. The fact that we've got to that point.
Some random person on the internet is like, oh man, this anime is really great. You end up watching it halfway through. You're like, wait a minute. Is this anime? Whoa. It's Spain's turn.
Whoops, I've actually been watching the Democratic debates this whole time.
It was me, Dio. So George has been playing old games and experimenting, as always. Before we get on to me and Matt and what we've been up to, John, anything you've been playing this week that's been tickling your fancy?
Yeah, a little bit. I guess I've been playing a couple of things. Two of them are really weird, and one of them's the big release out this week. But I played Sagebrush.
Sagebrush.
Yeah, it's this super low budget. I think it's like made by one guy indie game, and it's like basically like a first person environmental exploration game where you pretty much, it starts with you like in a car driving somewhere, and what happens is you drive to this site, and it's like this site of it's like an old cult's like, I know.
Whoa.
I got. Oh dear. Oh God. Well, guys.
Are you sure you're not talking about George's Adam?
No.
This Shakespearean
Oh God.
wit over here. I'm sure that double entendre was
not. I
intentional.
promise. I think two words just got combined badly. Oh. I'd asked for that to be edited out, but I've listened to this podcast and I know that's not going to happen.
Somebody heard us talk about fellatio last week.
Oh,
so you drive out to
that
this
is all
old
too
country, like where it's like, oh, this is a very sad, serious game, guys. And it's basically you exploring where this cult used to live and like going through like their old diaries and stuff. And the coolest thing about the game is like the look, where it's this real like old school look to it, where it's like kind of like low res, low tech 3D, but with like modern lighting technology, and it looks fucking stunning.
Yeah, it's got draw distance too. You can see pretty far, and there's a lot of trees.
And like
on
the way
mountains in
the kind of
distance,
the lighting affects the world. Like, it's kind of glitchy, but in this fucking awesome way where it just looks absolutely beautiful. And it's cool. But the only thing I'd say, and like I won't get too spoilery here, but like if you're, I guess with a lot of these kind of 1 to 2 hour games, especially where they're so narrative focused, you're really expecting kind of like a kicker. You know, you're expecting something to come in the third quarter and really be like, holy shit, that's what was happening here.
Yeah. Like, why was I doing this whole time, kind of thing?
And unless it's still 2012 and the twist is nothing weird happens because you're expecting video game twists.
Oh, and this, like, it has stuff, but it's funny that you mentioned 2012, George, because, like, to me, this is one of those games where it would have like blown my mind like maybe 6 or 7 years ago, but nowadays, and especially in the same year that Devotion came out, which was also an environmental exploration game about the damage cults can do, it did feel like a little underwhelming by the end. And I think that is a bit of an unfair comparison because Devotion obviously had a studio behind it and this is just one dude. But I guess even like thematically and in the story and what they're trying to say, it's very similar. But did any of you guys get to play Devotion before it went down?
No, we just spoke about it. George, you played Detention.
No,
Yeah,
I played a lot of Detention though.
I watched your video on it.
It's
It looked
a
really
travesty that game isn't available. That's my favorite horror game since like Silent Hill 2. Like, it's amazing. And definitely like playing this after that, Devotion cast a long shadow. Do you know what I mean? It's like 5 books, so if this does sound like your kind of thing, it is cool. But yeah.
I mean, my internet is super slow, so I googled sagebrush images, and I'm just looking at pictures of plants in the desert.
Yeah, that was my problem when I got stuck, and I had to Google sagebrush guide, and I was like, damn it. So that was cool. I got some other stuff I've been playing too. I don't want to go on for too long here.
Go ahead.
Okay, I've been playing Anodyne 2.
Sean, what's it? I forget his name. Really cool developer. Anodyne 1 was a really interesting game.
That is an experience, that game. Anodyne 1 was like a Link's Awakening kind of tribute game, but also this really weird, like existential, nearly like at times kind of horror game.
Yes.
It's
what genre am I looking at? It's going from 2D top-down Zelda clone to a Dreamcast looking low poly 3D.
So Anodyne 1 was just the 2D top-down Zelda stuff, and this one has like low poly 3D N64 Dreamcast era exploration in it. And what happens is you're this robot who's just been born, and you have to go around to like all these different like really weird, there's no people, they're all weird fucking monsters, and you have to go inside their minds and help them figure things out. So outside the minds is like 3D exploration, and inside is this like 2D Zelda like dungeon. And it's fucking cool. Like it's one of those games where it's so hard to put across the appeal until you sit down and like play it for a little bit and let like, it's like the soundtrack and the visuals and the dialogue, it's all very like centered. It's all very silly, but it's also trying to talk about these really weird things about what it is to exist and have experience, and it's awesome. I hope it does really well for them.
It does look. I'm really intrigued to play it. Previous guest and lovely friend Nitro Rad made a video about it as well. It looked really interesting.
I actually discovered Nitro Rad from that episode he was in. He's great. I love his stuff.
He's a big fan of the original game, and I was excited to see what he thought of the most recent one.
I found out the original game through him after listening to this.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. But you don't need to have played Anodyne 1 to play this. They're only like thematically linked, but I'd really encourage people to check it out. It's fucking deadly.
I like the idea of it has the sequence of running of changing between the 3D into the 2D is like you're being sucked into a hole or something, and like antibodies are trying to stop you from entering, and you're like running down a highway.
It's so
and you're like
weird.
Avoiding the antibodies. It's really weird, but super interesting design wise.
Totally, and it's like it's one of like there's there's going to be nothing else like it out this year. Like, it's really weird. It's fresh and it's different. Totally not going to be for everybody. Fucking weird game, but it's cool.
About how long do they take?
I think the first game, I think most people beat the first game in like 4 hours. I'm kind of a dummy, so it took me like 5 to 6. And I think this one is meant to be about 6 to 8.
That's pretty manageable.
Yeah. Do you guys have that thing where like the older you get, and then when you hear a game is like 8 hours, you're like, oh, thank God.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I'm 40 hours into Fire Emblem Three Houses, and I want to die.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and
Weeks.
You've been playing that for
and it's weird because like
weeks.
People don't know, but this show, we kind of need something to talk about. At least one thing. This is why we bring on people like John, so he can talk about cool, awesome, weird indie games that we have definitely not played. Because otherwise
40 years ago.
Yeah, otherwise I'm still stuck in the same fucking garbage RPG that I love that is taking weeks and weeks and weeks. So like 5 to 8 hour games are literally the best.
Oh, I love them so much.
So good.
And then other than that, I've been playing a little bit of Control.
Oh,
please do tell. Is it okay? Are you playing with RTX on?
This is PS4 for me.
Regular. I want to.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, regular experience without all the graphics and everything. How's it been?
So it's tricky because this is like a third person action game at its core. Like a lot of shooting, a lot of banging. That's not really my thing, but I've always been interested in Remedy. I've never played any of their previous games, but I think they're cool, you know? And so stylistically so far, like I think the game's like a 10. Like it is, they are doing stuff with the visuals that feels really like weird and interesting. Even just like the way they use fonts and will sometimes like overlay it on the environment. Like you'll go into a new environment and like covering the screen will be like the research lab and you'll get like a big hit and it feels kind of like a TV show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they did that with Quantum Break, like the live action FMVs were.
Yeah, and they'll do a bunch of stuff like they'll overlay live action footage onto the screen while you're playing it, and it's kind of weird and trippy, but it sort of works. And I'm really liking a lot of that stuff. Basically, the story is like you're this woman and you show up at the Bureau of, get this, Control.
Ooh.
Yeah. And
definitely American.
Yeah, and it does totally have this like kind of like Americana-y feel to it, where it's a lot of it's presented like a really weird like 1970s sci-fi infomercial where they're trying to explain like the existence of like old gods and these weird haunted artifacts and extra dimensional shit. And I'm really,
it does seem quite X-Filey.
Yeah, and totally. And I'm really enjoying all that stuff. Like that stuff's really cool. But then the shooting happens and it just kind of turns into a game I feel like I've played a million times before. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Third person.
Yeah.
That's
We just talked about it last week.
Remedy. No, it is. I remember Max Payne 1 and 2 being these creative, intense, like very artistically motivated works, but I wonder if I'd play them nowadays if they would kind of feel like Half-Life-ish.
Yeah, and like Max Payne had bullet time, and you know, for me it was like I showed up to Max Payne for bullet time, and then like the trippy, crazy cutscenes are what like
they
really
do trippy, crazy environmental storytelling so well, though. That's like the one thread from classic Remedy to now that still feels strong.
Like Alan Wake had so much of it, even though it was a fairly, visually standard game. It still had a lot of like weird, obscure trippiness about it.
Remember the
and it's
TV
weird because
with the eyeball.
Yeah, it's weird because this week I was always going to buy Astral Chain. Like this week, 2 big games come out. It's like Astral Chain and Control. And being a huge Platinum Games fan and having a 14-hour flight to Seattle, I was always going to buy Astral Chain to play on the flight. But with everybody talking about Control and then watching some of the stuff, because I'd kind of ignored it. Because I was like, oh, for some reason, for a long while, I thought it was an Xbox-only exclusive, and then I was just thinking of Alan Wake for a long time. because I'm a complete idiot. But like I was watching videos of it.
That was an Xbox exclusive for like 1 year in 2011.
I know, but whatever. Anyway, so I was thinking, and then I was kind of relieved because I was like, hey, shit, I can actually play this. Do I want to double dip this week and buy Astral Chain and Control? And I was looking at videos of like the shape-shifting environments. And I'm thinking from a dev standpoint, that is fucking impressive ass technology and like environmental design. And I was super sold on that.
Even just the way the environment like interacts with your actions. Like early on, you get a kind of telekinetic blast. And it's crazy how much they've modeled all the different like furniture and books to like if you use your blast on like an office table, pages go everywhere and it reacts really, really well. And it's cool. I'm still early on, so I'm hoping the combat kind of opens up. But what I'd say about it right now is it kind of feels like a really well done licensed game for a TV show that doesn't exist.
So it's like Quantum Break, but better.
Yeah.
Quantum Break. Yeah.
And I kind of like mean that in like all the good and bad ways. And I really hope it opens up because part of me is like, why is there... I know why they're shooting because they want it to sell, but part of me is like, why is there shooting in this game? Like it's... But yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm going to play more. And like, I'm not far in at all. But yeah, that's where I am with that.
It does look interesting. Maybe you can inform us later on about your experiences.
Yeah, I'll drop you guys a line.
So me and Matt don't waste our precious money.
I am for sure getting Astral Chain this weekend, though. Like, holy shit.
Heck fucking yes.
Astral Chain.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well I gotta see those reviews.
Early reviews are good. Very good.
I mean, it is platinum.
Yeah,
right?
very, very good. Also, the one of the original topics I saw on Reset Era for Astral Chain, the tagline was Popo's Bizarre Adventure. So I'm totally down. Yeah, Popo's Bizarre Adventure. I'm
going to say that on my podcast and act like I didn't hear it here.
You only have to get it out faster than this episode and you'll be done.
Damn it. Damn bi-weekly schedule.
Don't worry. George takes ages. You might be okay.
It takes like 2 days and some change usually, unless we have a technical difficulty because of shitty laptop.
Real quick.
Speaking of other games, because we're on like for a record 5 games in one episode. That for us is like
surprisingly on brand.
I don't know what else you've been playing, Matt, but we both have been playing the Dragon Quest 11 demo for Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Is it really 10 hours? Like, did I?
I'm
my
6 hours
God.
in, George.
I am 3 and a bit hours in. So
How did they get away with that?
Because it's a fucking 100-hour RPG.
They want you to play.
They do what they want.
Are they assuming that if you play a 10-hour demo, you're invested at that point and you're gonna want to buy?
Matt, for posterity's sake, what was your percentage before I told you about the demo in interest, in percentage?
Like, the thing is, you told me about it, and you didn't tell me that it was, like, the better version, the definitive version, and everything like that, and I looked all that up. So you planting that seed got me really interested. Like, they added voice acting, they fixed some issues, they added better music. The music is an improvement, even though I didn't know that
the music in the PS4.
Just that rap
the music
bag.
in the PS4
Yeah.
The music was good now.
It's MIDI ass bullshit.
Yeah, I heard. I was like,
that rat bag of a composer.
Someone did a side by side.
They disabled Spotify on it, so you can't even Spotify your own music over it. That's what a vindictive prick the guy behind the music of Dragon Quest is.
He's such
He's
a
the
dick.
worst.
Like he is the worst. Like honestly, if you're listening to this and have no idea, just trust us. He is a massive homophobic, racist, sexist weirdo from Japan, and he's like 97.
For a second there, I thought you were calling out him.
Really?
Like, if you're listening to this, buddy.
If you understand ego, you...
How are you guys enjoying it?
At first, it was a little shock.
Very classic RPG.
The graphics look kind of shitty.
No, they look great. What are you talking about?
I think they look good too.
The pop in, the
Okay.
grass are like razor blades for my eyeballs.
No, fair.
It's like, it's
just
just-
Switch.
This is coming from the guy who asked you,
Yeah,
were
that-
you playing
that's
Control
why.
with RTX on?
Okay, yeah.
I usually play long games on PC. I'm not usually, because I want to see it in like full
Yeah.
HD and stuff. Like I don't want pop-ins or anything. But you forget about it.
The PS4 version did look amazing for Dragon Quest XI.
They look good, right? I figured. I figured if I got on PC, I would like it, but it's not
Yeah.
a definitive
And
version.
admittedly, the Switch version, in my opinion, looks better when it's in handheld mode, for sure.
Yeah, I don't usually put my Switch on the TV much, unless I'm playing Smash. Gotta play it on a TV with a
Heck yeah.
GameCube controller.
Final Destination.
To
Fox
beat
only.
George.
Yeah, because Liam is annoying with projectiles.
True though.
But after a while, you forget about the graphics,
Yeah.
of course, just like any game. Like if it's not that bad, then it doesn't really matter. It's just like a shocker when you looked up like videos of this, and then you look at it at your Nintendo Switch screen, and it's like looking jaggy. But yeah, it's pretty fun. I thought it was gonna be like the dumb Japanese story thing, but there's a lot of good
This is I am surprised at how good the writing is. And as soon as I started and I heard like the voice acting and being British and hearing the voice acting, sometimes, especially like when I remember like the first time I played Dragon Quest VIII, which had voice acting that was British and stuff, it was kind of grating. But this one is so well written and so wholesomely charming. I'm like, oh, I love all of you. This is adorable.
What is with that though? The crikey thing. It's like the
American
Ni no
people
Kuni
writing
thing.
British
Like,
dialogue.
what's the...
Like, I don't know about you, John. Does it like get on your nerves at all, or are you like, this is cool?
It does get on my nerves a little bit, but granted, I think part of that is I'm just so
Yeah.
used to American accents from
Yeah.
games that when it's anything else, like if this was Australian,
Yeah.
I'd be like, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah, first time I played Xenoblade Chronicles, I was like, how the fuck do I mute these?
But like
these guys?
that's just I
Done
think being raised on American media and being so used to hearing it, you know, like after like 20 hours, I didn't really care anymore.
It was the Luminary's mum
Yeah.
who sold me.
Oh, she's great.
Like
yeah,
I was like,
she's
fine
cool.
and fine, and then when I met his mum, and I was like, oh my god, it's just like my real mum.
Some of the Akira Toriyama designs though, and like I appreciate that Toriyama's getting up there. He doesn't want to be doing this stuff anymore, but sometimes like a character will appear and it's like, dude, that's literally just Dr. Gero from Dragon Ball Z. Like it's and it's not, oh, there's a similarity.
Ball Z?
It's that. It's like he took Dr. Gero and just drew a crown on top.
Yeah.
And all the respect in the world to the man.
Gero
but,
with, like,
yeah.
The tricky demon reminded me of that.
Imagine,
he's
imagining Dr. Gero with the like Mark's funny nose mustache goggles is a good trip.
Can we talk about like how
Like the hero's friend is like Super Saiyan.
the
what's
Super
the new
Saiyan Blue?
Is that what it's called now? Super Saiyan Blue. I was like, oh my god, this guy's powerful, man.
Are you referring to Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan?
Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan.
Yeah, I would. God did come up in my head, but I was like,
I
is
think
it
at
God, or is
some
it
point
just
they're
Blue?
like it's
Because they had
but
Rose
for convenience
and all
sake,
that.
we'll just call it Super Saiyan Blue.
Blue.
It's my
Oh
favorite bit
yeah,
in that
that's
movie
right.
where
That's right.
Gold
They always
Frieza
have the
goes,
same song.
I will call myself Gold Frieza.
Gold Frieza.
Yeah.
Good movie. Not as good as the
Holy
new one.
shit,
though.
yeah.
Holy
My
shit,
God.
that's a good movie though. That is a good movie. But
I still haven't watched a Brawl.
oh, dude,
Jesus.
it's very good.
Let me put that in my bookmarks here.
But one thing I did want to bring up that I've noticed in recent games, because I was so incredibly frustrated with this in Fire Emblem Three Houses. With long-ass story RPGs, I cannot deal with silent protagonists anymore.
Yeah.
It is so frustrating in games like Fire Emblem Three Houses that is all voice acting, and Dragon Quest XI, which is like now like 60% voice acting at least from what I've seen so far. Having just silent protagonists nod or have blank expressions like Fire Emblem Three Houses is fucking awful for it. Like
no emotion
whatsoever. I mean, it like 30 hours in ties into the story, but from the get-go, from like the 30 hours before that, you're like, why am I playing this fucking jackass who doesn't say or emote in any way, shape, or form? And now playing with the Dragon Quest 11 character and having played Smash Brothers as well with him, and it's kind of like, well, I can kind of forgive him because he has a lot of facial expressions, but if you're gonna have every character voice act, then do the main character as well. Like, ugh.
Is it laziness or, that's just the way they do things?
Well, it's RPGs, isn't it? It's naming your character. It's the complications of you are role-playing the main character. You get to choose your name. And in Fire Emblem Three Houses, they can get away with it because they call him the Professor all the time. His name doesn't mean anything. Like, you can name him Shitbag. They will always call him the Professor. I don't know, but it's really grating these days to play. It cuts my personal immersion.
I think that's
quite frequently.
That's the thing with Dragon Quest
You
11. Like, it is an old school RPG in like all the best and worst ways.
Yeah. It's weird because I was looking at the reviews for Astral Chain and they were saying that you choose between one of two twins, the male twin or the female twin, to be the main character. And then the one you choose is silent, and then the other one then becomes fully voice acted. But if you choose that one, then the other one becomes fully voice acted. It's like, well, if you have a male voice and a female voice, and they both talk if you're the other one, why can't you just make both of them talk no matter which one the player is?
But Liam, you gotta feel immersed. You gotta feel like the character's a representation of your
You're the hero
mind.
now, Liam.
You!
I want to be a police officer.
Whoa, let's clip that. I want that as my ringtone.
Editor, edit that out, please.
Nope. Keep that in.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but aside from that, from what could be seen as a petty squabble, Dragon Quest XI, pretty good, pretty fun so far.
Yeah, I don't understand why you can move in combat. I really don't.
Oh, I turned that off straight away. Yeah.
This annoys the hell out of me.
You can turn that off in the options because it literally does nothing. I think it's to trick children into playing Dragon Quest.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
their master plan.
It's an action game, guys.
And it is weird because it probably worked in Japan.
God.
The saddest thing is that I feel like that trick would have worked on me.
It worked on me for like an hour, and I was like, "There's got to be like a skill that goes inside of goes in a line or something like that, and you're supposed to line up the enemies." Nope. And he saw me on Discord like, "What the hell? Why can't I move?"
Yeah, I did the exact same thing.
I can't block, I can't dodge, I can't do anything. I'm missing something because you have to press like the attack button for you to attack. Like it doesn't just automatically pop up like it would. Like there's no gauge to see when you're gonna attack next. Is that just me or?
Well, it's turn based, isn't it? It essentially is just turn based.
I think there's something that happens where it'll tell you the next enemy attacking. I can't remember how that works though.
Yeah, but yeah, other than that, like the game is pretty good. Like finding
the forging's so
and
fun.
Building gear and like that's
yeah,
like that feels rewarding because you get to explore, you get to find these little treasure chests with lots of ingredients, a lot of recipes, and you just sit down, build gear, and then you're like overpowered for the boss. It's satisfying.
The forging minigame gets like surprisingly deep. Like by the end of the game, you have about maybe 20 different kinds of hammer bashes you can do. It's really involved, and like if you want the best gear, you really have to be so careful about it. It's cool. It's really good.
And I've been enjoying it. I watched Tim Rogers' Kotaku video review, like when the PS4 version came out. And basically him saying you should play it like a bedtime story and play it for like an hour in bed on the Switch is basically what I've been doing. Like an hour just in bed. So beautiful. Lights off. Like someone's reading me an old fairy tale. It's brilliant.
I could get 10 days of bedtime, an hour long of bedtime gaming out of just the demo.
Yep.
Yeah.
For free.
Holy crap.
And your save transfers.
And it lets you replay the demo for multiple sessions?
Yeah, and it has 3 save slots, so you can play the demo for 30 hours, I guess.
It's the last game you'll ever need.
I mean, I've played 40 hours of Fire Emblem, and I feel like I've exhausted all of my willpower.
Yeah. I'm scared to buy it. Wait, it comes out in like a month?
I know I'm going to be stupid and buy it. I think that's the thing.
It's like 80 hours, right?
Yeah, something like that.
The base game took me about 60 hours, and then credits roll, and then literally you go to continue, and there's new story cutscenes and new story, and everyone's like, let's go to this weird fucking tower, and it's like, okay. And I put it down at that point because I wanted to play other things, but it was good. Like, it's cool. I hear that the most interesting part of that game is post-credits.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Why?
And this is the last version, so
I'm definitely
a lot more after that.
I'm gonna be so stupid and I'm gonna buy it and never finish it. That's what's gonna happen, isn't it? Same as always.
I don't want to do that. That's why I'm scared.
Yeah, but you're good at finishing games, Matt.
That's how adults play RPGs.
Yeah, I know. But that's a problem. That's a problem. I don't want to finish an 80-hour game, a 60-hour game, whatever. That's a lot of time. It's a lot of time.
I heard Astral Chain was like 20 hours, and I cried a little bit.
Like, like double. That's like a little bit over a double of what like the regular length time.
I could get like 70% done if I started immediately on my flight to PAX, and then as soon as I got off, I'd be near the end, maybe.
It's the only reason I haven't played Persona. It's the only reason.
Yeah, but that just takes the piss. That goes on forever and ever and ever.
I beat that game last month. Yeah. I bought it when it came out.
And played it 1 hour every day.
Never playing that game. I don't have enough time for that.
I don't even know if it was worth it. I just... Yeah.
Wait. Persona 5?
Yep.
I played 20 hours of the Japanese version.
George is never gonna play that game.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like shaking my head, trying to keep things flowing. I
played 20 hours of the Japanese version when it came out in Japan a year before, and then it got to a point where the kanji was way too difficult for me to read, so I gave up and I was like, I'll wait for the English version. That'll be great. Well, the English version played the same 20 hours and then gave up.
Besides all that, besides these really, really long Japanese games I may never play, Liam, you had a segment in mind that maybe can wake me up here and get me more involved.
I've been intrigued by this surprise segment.
I think I know what it is.
So, no, you don't. No, you don't. This was well thought out. It was as well thought out as What Would George Do, which took me 5 minutes to think of.
I knew it.
No, it's not that.
Oh, it's not that.
No, it's not that.
God damn, you got my hopes up.
We still haven't answered the questions, dang it.
We'll have that episode. We'll have a recall episode on that.
Would George really do it?
What would What would George really do? Part 2.
A month later. Okay. Yeah.
No, but I wish I could have like some fancy music. But just imagine the boom Netflix logo appears.
Boom boom.
We have our super wonderful special guest who has brought so much joy for the past 47 minutes already.
I'm so sorry, everybody.
So I was thinking of special one-off segments we could do with John here. And I was thinking, of course, we could do like anime-based ones, but that's so fucking obvious. What if we are the Netflix boardroom? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I am the head. And I'm saying to you, my directors, what is your favorite anime? Because we're making a live action version of it.
Oh, no.
And you are gonna cast it using real life actors. You have to ruin your favorite anime series.
This is the thing. Like, my instinct is to think of all my favorite animes and then just put them behind a massive fence and never mention them in this meeting. Because, dear God, I don't want to see Jonah Hill play Yusuke in Yu Yu Hakusho.
Oh no.
So, John, unfortunately, people that know kind of generally the ballpark of what your favorite shows are because you literally talk about them, so you can't get away with it.
Why?
Whereas Matt and George can kind of hide it a bit. I mean, George can only pick from 2 anime.
Fuck it. Like, okay, Hunter x Hunter and the goddamn child from Stranger Things. I don't know.
So we'll go round first.
Okay,
We'll go
okay.
around. So
I hate
the
what I'm
goddamn child
imagining.
from Stranger Things.
I don't
Which
know
one?
I don't know how to differentiate those children.
The one with the
Sure,
braces.
yeah, absolutely.
The awkward kid.
The curly hair.
let's call order to the meeting. Let's go around.
Okay.
So, John, first you tell me what your favorite anime is, and then we'll go around to the other 2, and then we can start casting each one. So, John, which one are you going to choose?
Love Hunter x Hunter. I hope we do a really good job.
This upsets me because Hunter x Hunter is my favorite as well. But let's go around.
Yes.
We'll go to Matt next because Matt watches more anime than George. George needs time to choose between the 2 he's watched in his life.
Hunter x Hunter is dope. Full Metal Alchemist. Both of them are pretty dope. I'm down with both of them. Brotherhood. Or whatnot.
Okay, so we're gonna make a live action version of Full Metal Alchemist. Japan already did it, but we're gonna make a shitty Western version. George.
Well, the Japan version was shitty too.
It was.
I'm gonna ruin FLCL.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. You said the favorite anime.
Okay, so let's break some ground rules. Obviously, we can't cast every character in all of these. So we're going to choose maybe 5 of the main characters. So Hunter x Hunter, I guess Gon, Killua, Leorio, Kurapika, and maybe some other minor characters off that. The best man in the world, Hisoka. And maybe some others. But let's choose a couple. So if we start by ruining Hunter x Hunter, then we can go down the list. So, John?
Okay, let's go for Keanu Reeves as Hisoka. If you don't watch Hunter x Hunter, I promise that was kind of funny. Thank you, George. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anytime.
George, Google Hisoka and then Keanu Reeves and see if you can put the 2 together.
Oh God. So Keanu Reeves would be wearing clown makeup?
Yes. I guess.
You
gross.
just don't know.
So,
George.
John, would you do any character changing of Hisoka for Keanu Reeves? Get rid of some parts?
No, I can safely say I'd leave everything exactly as it is. And at some point, we're gonna say to Keanu Reeves at the start of a fight that we need to strike him to strike a very particular pose, and that we'll do the rest in post.
Yeah. It's really important he gets into character that he really, really, really likes this one child.
George.
And it's fine. It's grand. It's okay.
And it's fine. It's not sexual. It's about power. It's about
it's like
power.
it's
Okay,
it's
so
like 80% not sexual. It's totally fine.
So, George, imagine that picture with
Camera
Keanu.
going straight up his nose.
So we got Hisoka. Let's try and cast Gon and Killua.
Oh, I don't know a lot of little child actors.
I guess.
Can we cast them as adults?
I mean, maybe teenagers. I'll push.
Okay.
I mean, Gon seems younger than Killua, so maybe Killua could be a little bit older.
She's a girl, but Millie Bobby Brown, 11 from Stranger Things, make a good Killua, I think. Yeah,
I think so.
I think she'd kick ass as that. As for Gon, I don't know. Macaulay Culkin, I don't know.
Wow.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, who could play Gon? There aren't many standout child actors apart from the Stranger Things cast, I guess.
What if we make everyone else live action but Gon CG?
Let's do a King and Asura, but live action.
I think
and
that
anime.
would work really well, definitely.
Anita, dude. She Gon could be Anita. Anita's angel or whatever it's called.
Alita Battle Angel.
You never
Oh,
watched?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, Battle Angel.
mate, gotta add some spiky hair.
Yeah, it's all CG.
Oh,
It's
we
all
could
CG.
bring the guy who did Goku in Dragon Ball Evolution back. With the same wig.
Shut
With the
up.
same wig
No.
he used in Dragon Ball Evolution, whatever it was called.
Oh my god, he was terrible.
What about Leorio? Leorio is a bit
Adam
easier
Driver.
to cast. No, that was pretty good. I'd watch that.
Yeah, I'd watch that.
And finally, maybe Kurapika.
Oh, tough one. There was a very androgynous person in, god damn it, Sabrina the Teenage Witch Netflix documentary show. They are already in like the Netflix family, and so we could probably get them pretty easy.
Okay. So we have to find out who
Yeah,
that
we do.
is and then sign
Yep.
him up. Sign him up. Okay, so we got Hunter x Hunter cast. We have Keanu Reeves playing Hisoka. We have the guy from Dragon Ball Evolution playing God.
Perfect.
Millie Bobby Brown playing Killua. And Leorio is Adam Driver, which, to be fair, is a pretty damn good casting. I think he'd look dapper in a suit and
He'd
those
look
glasses. And then some actor from something in Sabrina Witch from Netflix already.
Perfect.
Okay, here is $50 million. Signed up.
Okay. It just
Ready
goes to
to
show
go.
that Hunter x Hunter's so good you can't even ruin it. It's just always going to be great.
You can't fuck it up. I mean, once we get to casting like the Phantom Troop and like then we get to like the Chimera arc and we gotta cast like all of the Chimeras and we get to like put on some prosthetics on some really famous actors. That's when it's gonna be amazing.
Yep, it's going to be dope.
It's beautiful. Okay, so moving on. Next in this boardroom, Matthew. So we got Alphonse and Ed and Winry and like
All right, hear me out. Edward, Peter Dinklage.
with him doing like alchemist symbols on the ground.
and Al would be The Rock.
Okay.
Oh, that's
The Rock.
so good.
All-star cast, baby.
But wait, is it just The Rock's
Probably
voice?
won't go right, but all-star cast.
Wait, is it just The Rock's voice?
The big
We can just pitch it up,
armor
it's fine.
walking around. Actually, what if it's just The Rock, but he's only wearing the
But
helmet?
they never acknowledge it and they never change the script, so it's like, oh, this body of steel.
He lost his fleshy body.
It's just the helmet, and he has like
He
a
lost
little
his
wife
fleshy
beater
body
and some
during
shorts.
a terrible accident.
Body of steel.
What about
my God.
Mice Hughes and what's his name? Fyre dude, Roy Mustang.
I fucking love the mental image of Peter
Yeah.
Dinklage and The Rock like walking through the desert, and The Rock's just got the helmet on.
I think I just watched a series of 12 episodes of them two just hanging out. I
This
think that'd be
sounds
great.
like it could actually really work. Like
Yeah.
you'd piss off the it'd be like the Netflix Death Note movie, you know, just a great comedy. It's just a
know
very
what?
unfortunate like naming and branding.
Come on, we need some Roy Mustang and Mice Hughes and stuff. And Winry, of course. We've got to have Winry.
What about Bill Skarsgård?
As Roy Mustang?
That's Roy.
I
Yeah,
can
I
see
know he
that. I
is.
can see that.
He's the guy who plays
Okay,
It.
okay.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Oh, can I pitch in as the board director and say if we're gonna have Bill Skarsgård as Roy Mustang, can we have his best friend Bill Hader as Mice Hughes?
As who?
Bill Hader is Mice Hughes, the guy who gets killed in the telephone box. Spoilers, sorry.
Oh, snap. Yeah, let's do it. For Scar, I don't know. I could see a buff Oscar Isaac playing a Scar. I could see that.
You could have that guy who played a Sabretooth or whatever his name is, the Wolverine films.
Oh, by the way, Oscar Isaac is like the pilot in
Star Wars, right?
In Star Wars, but I know him from Ex Machina.
Ex Machina.
That was such a good film.
What about
You should watch
what
it.
about Winry?
Everyone watch it. I don't know. A blonde girl like Yeah.
She's
such a
generic-
good
like, nondescript.
This is
character,
supermodel.
though.
This is Michael Bay it up, you know? Supermodel.
Megan Fox.
Any supermodel. All-star cast and then random hot girl.
Megan Fox in a wig. So we got Peter Dinklage, The Rock, Bill Skarsgård, Bill Hader, and Megan Fox. This is
So
it's pretty big dick to swing around there for the Full Metal Alchemist movie.
yeah, man.
Okay, so we have 2 movies upcoming in 2020. What's our 2021 FLCL big hit?
Oh god, I'm so sorry. It's like it's so easy to imagine FLCL getting ruined by being turned into a Malcolm in the Middle style teen coming of age dramedy series.
So you want Frankie Muniz to play the main character?
Yes.
But like modern
go back
day
in
Frank
time.
Muniz. No.
No. Oh, okay. Wait. We have to. You know what though? If I'm not allowed to time travel and get like circa 2000,
You
2001
are
Frankie
absolutely
Muniz,
not.
okay, then we're gonna have to settle with modern day Frankie.
Okay, I gotta look this up. I need to see what we're dealing with here.
It's gonna be a trip. He kind of looks like Sam Lake or Max Payne.
That is quite insulting to Sam Lake because he's a handsome man.
Anyways,
He looks very similar,
Sorry.
except he has stubble now.
He grew up.
I'm thinking that our wild card, seductress love interest who motorcycles her way into this kid's life should be, in order to make it appropriately cringy and ruin it, they should be giving off some Romana Flower vibes from
Scott Pilgrim.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
She hasn't been in a movie since, I don't think.
Yeah, but this is like my perfect mental image of actors who uncannily resemble the characters at play. You know what though? I don't know if their chemistry is going to be as good as Peter Dinklage and The Rock.
Do you want to just get them back in?
Yeah, let's just do Peter
Let's get,
like-
Dinklage and The
let's
Rock.
get
we
Peter
are- we-
Dinklage's
we-
now, though.
We already have their contact info from the last film, so like it saves a
Which-
ton of paperwork.
Which, guys, I just got the telegram in. It was the most watched movie on Netflix of all time. It overtook Bright as the most watched Netflix movie. We're in business.
Done. We did it.
Oh,
Netflix no longer needs The Office. Old media is dead. The future
Half
is
of my
now
friends
old,
watch The
man.
Office every day. That's gonna kill me.
Well, soon they're going to be watching the FLCL Netflix reboot. Anyways,
8 seasons. Who thought?
but yeah, I'm picturing like an 8-episode long miniseries with Scott Pilgrim crossed with Malcolm in the Mex vibes. Malcolm in the Mex? What did I just?
Malcolm in-
Anyways. Occasional bits of like live action rotoscoped anime, very very musically driven.
I can't stop thinking about Malcolm in the Mex. That should be our next project.
Malcolm in
And,
the
like
Max.
Malcolm, it's like a dark sequel to Malcolm in the Middle where everything's gone wrong.
Neon Genesis Malcolm in the Max.
So basically, the continued adventures of Frankie Muniz.
He is like a racing car driver, isn't he, or something? Like he tried his hand at that for a couple of years. Maybe this is his natural progression from.
He looks very excited in every single picture that's taken of him. Holy
he should
cow!
be. He's fucking Malcolm in the Middle.
He's about to ride in mechs.
Look at how happy this guy is.
Great. That was a great show.
That was a very good show.
Always grinning for the camera. Wow.
I've actually been rewatching Malcolm in the Middle over the last couple of weeks, and that show holds up amazingly well.
What are the
Is it like
chances?
that
You're
weird-
rewatching Malcolm in the Middle
Is
in
it-
2019?
Is it?
It's true. I've you can check my own podcast for proof, but yeah.
I won't question that. I'm not the boss of you.
Isn't it like? Isn't it like this weird chilling thing where you go back and you watch it and you realize just how fucking great Bryan Cranston is at everything?
Oh yeah, that's where he got his big start too, isn't it?
Within like I swear to God, a minute of him being on screen, you
Yeah.
completely
Oh.
forget about Breaking Bad. It's insane.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh.
He's so good.
he could be the dad in FLCL too, because isn't the dad kind of he has some hijinks?
Oh, and isn't there a granddad as well?
There's some silly perverted dad who makes silly perverted dad jokes.
Bryan Cranston isn't that perverted. I don't know if you could play a perverted character.
I don't know. I've
Character.
seen
I'm
seen some interviews with that guy, and
Yes, he does. Even with his wife
gets a
standing
little
there,
loose.
he gets loose, dude.
Okay, sign him up.
Yeah.
Sign him up. Okay, so which of these movies do you reckon would be the most aggravating to the wider anime community? I'm thinking
Oof.
Death Note levels of hatred.
Do people still hate the Netflix Death Note movie?
Do people even think about the Death Note movie? I remember being such a fan of Death Note that when I was 16 years old and in college, I remember streaming the Japanese live action Death Note on a college laptop, being like, "Oh my god, live action anime!"
So I was totally the guy in my animation course at college who'd be like, "You haven't read Death Note?"
I'm gonna write your name in my Death Note. I reckon the Hunter x Hunter one would cause a lot of anger. I mean, it's the FLCL one, which seems like it would be fairly standard, innocuous, arty, outside of art type live action.
The FLCL one, I could kind of see happening.
Yeah.
But I just gotta say that there's no way either of them are gonna compete with
the Full Metal Alchemist. Yeah, like I feel like Matt's already been paid $2 billion
absolutely
to make the sequel.
That is such a good pairing.
Yeah. The Hunter x Hunter one, I think, would cause anger. Like, I'm already angry.
In terms of outrage, I think the casting of the Full Metal Alchemist is so good that people will be like, "What the fuck?" And then they'd see the poster and they'd be like, "Oh, cool.
Oh yeah,
it's the Brahma Bull." Yeah,
with the helmet.
Oh,
Peter
man.
Dinklage with a metal
I
arm.
would pay money. Oh.
Well, this is what we do here at Netflix and Sons.
I do want to bring up since we're on Netflix, Netflix No Chill segment here, and this one's very cringy, like very, very cringy. Okay, a friend told me about the Fyre Festival and how Hulu and Netflix, put out.
Oh, I've watched this.
Films on what happened to the Fyre Festival. It's like this big party that crashed and burned like a couple of years ago. And I never really knew about it much. You know, I heard it in passing. Watching this, oh my God. I watched the Netflix version. It's called Fyre, the Greatest Party That Never Happened. You just put Fyre in with a Y instead of an I, and you'll find it. This fucking film. Yeah, go ahead.
Matt, you know that bit where he's just like, "Listen,
Yes. Oh,
we need you to take one for
like
the team."
Okay. Before you say that, because
That poor man.
you need to lay some foundation. All right, like because it builds up to some of the most. It gets worse because you're like, already this is kind of cringy. Like the first scene, right? You see a drone shot of the Bahamas, and then you see like some NFL guy that I don't know NFL stuff. They're talking there. Him and Billy, which is the guy who made Fyre Festival, were having a conversation, and it was the most cringiest conversation. Like it was just he was paid to do it. It was the weirdest thing, right? And then you see Ja Rule pop up. He's a fucking idiot. Like I loved Ja Rule back in the day. You know, listen to his songs, all features probably, but he's like so glad to be noticed. He's extremely happy during this whole film. So like he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm an icon. You know, we're coming together with Billy here to create this website and do this big festival and, you know, have a party on Bahamas." It's just weird. All right. Then the editor for this film is leaving in all these awkward shots of them talking, just like Billy with weird awkwardness with Ja Rule and stuff like that. If you don't know Ja Rule, he's an old hip hop artist. I feel like George is scratching his head right now. Like, who's Ja Rule? Let me like quickly type it.
You keep saying, how in the world would I not know who Ja Rule is? He was like super popular when I was a kid, and when you were a kid, when we were kids.
To be fair, I am impressed. George knows. who
I just
Ja
gotta
Rule is.
Google what song it is that would refresh my memory. I don't know the name of the song, but I know the name of the guy.
And okay, so I'm like already this is like 10 minutes in and it's already hard to watch. They do this shoot, right? Because they're making this website that you can book like talent, like high grade talent like Ja Rule and stuff like that, and to your birthday party and stuff like that. Whatever. But they want to have this Fyre festival, right? To kind of promote that. Like the website is the main slice, but the party would be like kind of promoting their website because they use Fyre to do it, blah, blah, blah. They had this shoot with the top supermodels, right? They're spending a bunch of money getting these supermodels, and Ja Rule is like saying like, oh, chase me into the water for the last shot. And like, they're all partying, they're all drinking. Ja Rule is constantly getting people to drink, and they're all saying this shit. They're all saying like people are going ham and telling the truth of what happened, and they have footage of it because they've been recording. So I don't know how they got the hands on all the footage and stuff. I'm guessing the people who worked for him, like, you know, they toss out the footage because it's so weird to get an insight of what's happening. So if someone's telling you a story, you're actually seeing what's happening.
It gets really weird later on when after everything is said and done, and there's basically a section where they're just like, we're going to commit more crime now, but we're also going to film that too.
He says, film everything. All right. Billy is ridiculous. Billy deserves to be in jail. He deserves a lot. If you watch this film, you'll understand. I want to say a quote. All this to say a quote from Ja Rule. He says this line. There's more to the quote, but he says, in a room filled with all the supermodels that were like giving him weird faces, saying like, why would we chase you? Like literally in the film, like it's so awkward hearing people just like just outright say no, you know, to him. It's like, come on, Chanel, like chase me into the water. And she's like, no. And it's like a close-up shot like from The Office. It's nuts. And he says, while they're all in the group, let's party like rock stars and fuck like porn stars. He says that. That comes out his fucking mouth. All right, look. All right. And it continues to get worse. I'm gonna tell you one more thing before we get to what John was talking about. I don't like that's like near like midway, I would say. Oh yeah, that's right. This was an hour and like 30 minutes, wasn't it? Jesus Christ. All right. There is this guy who's supposed to be flying people in a private jet, flying people to the island, and he says that he just got his license 6 months ago, right? And you see him in the plane getting ready to fly it, and that he learned how to fly using Microsoft Flight Simulator. I can't, it's so ridiculous, the stuff that happens, that you think it's a joke. I would not be surprised if all this is a joke.
And wasn't it all a pyramid scheme? Like none of the acts ended up showing up and everyone was stranded on this island.
It was a huge, massive, embarrassing disaster that cost millions, right? Millions.
I actually saw this documentary a while ago. The thing I remember most about this documentary is how the interviews are filmed. How the people are looking like right, straight, and center into the camera. They're not looking off center. And a friend of mine was filling me in on some popular documentary filmmaker back in the Iraq War days who figured out this technique where you can get really creepy looking interviews if you have your subjects talking to a monitor instead of to your own face. So that way you can have the camera pointing directly at them without having anything in between the two of you. And it makes them always look really intense and really personal.
That War Games documentary is great. Like it's powerful stuff.
Very good documentary. Yeah.
I highly suspect if the same technique was used for this, like, silly whoops, no one showed up to the Fyre festival.
Failed festival.
Oh, so Jesus Christ. There's this, like, I think he's like a CEO or so. He's like
Andy King, I believe his name.
But he's like Yeah, I think so. He's like the guy who's like in charge of like coordinating everything, and he's this like older business dude who's probably been involved in like, dozens of companies, so much like life experience behind him. And at some point Billy tells him that a bunch of water is held up at customs and he needs this guy to take one for the team and go down and suck the custom executive's dick.
He says, "You are you're our gay leader." That's what he said.
And like, look, I get that the dude's gay, but if things are that desperate, I don't think his sexuality matters. It's like anyone can suck a dick.
I don't understand why Billy didn't go in there. He cares about the project so much. Billy should have gotten on his knees.
Yeah. And you know what? If he had done that, I would have been like, that Billy's a dirtbag. But when it came down to it, he did what he had to do for those people.
He didn't.
But he didn't.
Can you imagine that was why you were ostracized from society? It's like, what happened to you? It's like, well, my life fell apart after a bunch of water I ordered got held up at customs, and I had to ask somebody to go suck a dick to get it released.
Oh. And the guy doesn't have to do it, which I'm so glad about because I felt so bad.
I can't believe he was gonna do it though. I couldn't believe he was actually gonna. Come on, man. Dude.
I think at that point he was just so exhausted and shell shocked from the whole thing.
I mean, he laughed about it, so I guess.
Well, what else would you do? Somebody's like, dude, the water held up in customs. Can you take over a team and go suck a dick?
Imagine that, like, we're shooting the Netflix Full Metal Alchemist and The Rock is refusing to come out of his trailer. And at some point, George comes up to you and he's like, Matt, we need you to take one.
Oh, dude, I would do it in a heartbeat. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, me too. Yeah.
It's like, Rock, this has been my dream since you've been on WWE SmackDown.
Since you beat Triple H for that world title. I have always smelled what The Rock is cooking.
Hey, Matt, can you smell?
No. Oh, that made it worse.
Oh god.
Oh.
I'm so glad I'm part of the worst episode you guys have ever done.
I think we reached a whole new bar. Thanks to the Fyre Festival.
I think you mean we lowered it down so deep into the core of the earth we can never recover.
All you had to do was bring an anime YouTuber on.
It's fine. We're just going to be left with a very core, small audience.
Shall we take a break and ruin this episode some more with some news and some user questions?
Vegeta, full-blooded Super Saiyan, heir to royalty, destined to rule the universe. His ruthless fighting skills are feared by many.
You should know better than to oppose Vegeta.
And he's taking all comers.
Don't ever try to stop me.
Dragon Ball Z, weekdays at 5:30. Power Up. Only Tsunami.
And I'm surprised you're all still here. Welcome back to the Dan and Son Show. This week with us, we have our extra special guest, John Eyepatch Wolf Walsh. Let's do some more stuff. George, what have you got for us?
We got time for one big news story, a complicated saga about the troubles of our time and how not to do PR in video games, which is seriously happening every freaking dinking week. Oh my god. Okay, so what was it? 2 weeks ago, it was Ooblets. Last week, we didn't talk about it, but there was a kerfuffle with the Apex Legends team. This week, Ion Fury is a game that's getting in a lot of news media trouble for poorly handling offensive content within the game itself. Okay, I'm going to start us off at the top. The game comes out on August 15th. It's a retro throwback shooter that is working with the build engine from Duke Nukem 3D games, working with a character who is like a Bayonetta style, what if Duke Nukem were a girl character. We're already like immersing ourselves in the trash from 20, almost 30 years ago. And the game has this wonderfully mature sense of humor that renames a hand soap bottle you would find on a bathroom as an O-gay instead of an Olay, right?
Good one.
Yeah, childish, rock star style, double entendre humor. In an out-of-bounds area that you cannot normally access through gameplay, there are some nonsense terms just floating around. One of them is the infamous 3-letter slur used to historically refer to gay people and also firewood. There were some screenshots taken out from the game's public Discord in which some of the developers were talking about SJWs being angry people because complaining on the internet feels good, and how trans people are mutilating their perfectly healthy bodies.
Whoa.
Yeah, didn't exactly shine the brightest light. Not some of the worst stuff we've gone through on this podcast, like straight up the white supremacy in the Mordhau fan community.
Apples and oranges, it's still the same tiresome bullshit.
It's more casual, but it's pretty fucking heinous, some of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this was brought to light, and they decided to be a professional big company about it and release an apology and promised to donate $10,000 to the Trevor Foundation. The publisher, 3D Realms, said to Eurogamer that 3D Realms has taken pride in empowering marginalized groups, as evidenced by our strong female protagonist and the makeup of our team. Moving forward, all 3D Realms contracts will include terms which will allow us to sever relationships if a contractor does not abide by our zero-tolerance policy for hate speech. The developer themselves said they're implementing a zero-tolerance policy for this type of language, including mandatory sensitivity training, patching the language out, and donating that $10,000. So then about a week passes, a week of negative Steam reviews showing up that are blasting the game with negative reviews, which Steam is supposed to have a system now set up to prevent, but go figure, it doesn't actually work in this case. Excerpts from the outrage preceding their apology, content patch removal, and donation includes language like, "I won't ever support a company that caves into the cries of oh so oppressed boo-hoo snowflakes."
Ah, snowflakes. That wonderful word they love so much.
Speaking of fragile, easily offended snowflakes, the game's Steam rating drops from universally positive to mostly positive. And then on August 26th, the company decides to backpedal almost everything. They decide to say that they're backpedaling everything, but not absolutely everything gets backpedaled. On August 26th, Voidpoint releases a statement saying, "We will absolutely not be censoring Ion Fury or any of our other games now or in the future, including but not limited to removing gags such as gaming's most controversial facial wash." They are dying on this gay hill. However, they didn't mention this, and it still happened behind the scenes. The floating slurs floating around in behind-the-scenes areas did get quietly patched out and removed. They're still going to be committing to that $10,000 donation, and now there's a new round of negative reviews on Steam that are now, making the score of the game go even worse, with language such as, "I will not support transphobia and homophobia in any way, and for the first time in my life, I've requested a refund for a game."
Oh my God.
So this is just what not to do in video games PR in the wacky, wild, horrific nightmare world of living in a universe where social media exists. This is a hilarious comedy of errors, if it wasn't real people. About how, I don't want to say literally the worst, but basically they're doing almost the worst every single time they get a chance to actually commit to even a direction here.
I don't really have any sympathy whatsoever.
I think it's it feels deeply insincere, on all fronts for 3D.
Oh, yeah.
Realms.
Mm-hmm.
And bringing censorship into it. It's what's happening here isn't censorship at any point. That's if an external party came to them and said, you need to remove those from your games under great penalty, and they did it, sure, that's censorship. But when people say, hey, you've done a really fucking stupid thing, maybe you should think about that, that's not censorship. And like for them to frame it as that is like, oh, fuck off.
I feel so bad for whoever actually wrote the 3D Realms statement. I mean, I don't know if the individual human genuinely believes this, but an actual human wrote down the following words, quote, "A portion of our community made it loud and clear that they felt that removing "oh gay" was censorship and should be protected by free speech."
No one was gonna arrest them.
Oh my god.
It doesn't clearly state in whatever amendment is that if you name a product "okay" and it's a parody of Olay, you are protected by rights. By your goddamn gun-toting right.
When the founding fathers were created.
Given the subject matter and the styling and the aesthetic callbacks of this game, everyone should have remembered.
It's weird because it very much isn't sincere. Like, you can almost see between the lines of what the timeline was. People found out. People got angry, rightly. Then 3D Realms put pressure on the developer to change it, because 3D Realms obviously don't want this PR nightmare. Whether it's genuine or not, they just want to get rid of it. They obviously then came out with something, like a statement, deal with it, say they were going to change it. And then, as the developer has now shown, came out and was like, no, fuck this, because I went through some of the retweets about this with people calling out the developers, and the guy was straight up answering them, being like, fuck you, I don't care. Like, this is censorship. What are you going to do, you social justice warrior douchebags? And it's like, yeah, of course, this is the type of person who wrote this shit in the first place. Like, you're just an asshole digging yourself into the ground.
Given the hole that, at least the shallow ditch, if you will, that this game would have been existing and calling back to anyways, like, come on, how many years ago did you play Walking Dead on Telltale and see that little pop-up message that said silence is a valid answer?
Fair point.
Like, with this kind of game, you're gonna be...
Because, George, there's another one that says the gaming community will remember this.
If they remember you saying nothing at all, then how good's their memory gonna be?
Because if people find stuff like that and you don't respond or do anything, then you're ignoring issues.
I feel that in this situation they should have made some ground rules fairly early on, not to engage with the community in terms of marginalized identities and politics beyond violence.
But just don't put homophobic content in your video games, for fuck's sakes.
Prevention is the best medicine, yeah.
And like, if you have a Discord that's open to the public as well, and people are saying hateful shit in there, like, if you're in any way a public figure or like a developer putting a game out, that's going to reflect on you, and you have to be very aware of like what kind of image like you want to put out there. And it was like, that to me is still like kind of the darkest part of this all, when you saw those Discord logs and just seeing the kind of just dehumanizing fucking hate they were putting in there. It was awful. So
one interesting angle that I have seen crop up during these scandals that I first saw during the Ooblets fiasco was maybe developers and /or publishers should be allocating a moderator budget. Have an actual full-time, maybe among your community manager staff. Like, yeah, have a full-time community manager, full-time moderators. Don't speak officially that on your official public Discord that casually.
No, because it's weird, because like, whilst I understand what you're saying, you're then attempting from a publisher or developer standpoint to essentially filter out your developer's true thoughts and intentions. And I would much rather just have a developer who is a homophobic fuck put shit in his game, get found out, and then know to never buy that dickhead's game. Like, I would rather that happen than for 3D Realms to catch that before anybody else does and be like, ooh, let's chill out on that. You can have your thoughts and feelings, but let's just chill out on that so nobody starts up a PR storm. I would much rather find out who these people are and just avoid their work and have the larger gaming community know about what their true feelings and intentions are towards certain minorities and sexual orientated people, then them get PR'd, then them to hide behind PR walls and stuff like that.
You don't want to. I don't want to say that like ignorance excuses it, but sometimes you gotta wonder how much is ignorance versus maliciousness. Like I think there was one comment that I saw talking about how the game did not have a feminist agenda slant to it, but the whole premise of having your badass foul-mouthed homicidal action hero be a woman, and that's the novel, like that, there is still a feminist slant to that. Like I don't know if they know what they're saying.
Yeah, it's intrinsic, like it has to be. So yeah.
You would not come up with that idea unless you were already working with a male archetype you're responding to. So yeah, I don't know. I think that a possible solution is having a bigger PR budget for things. Maybe have publishers expect this and send people on. I don't know. It's 2019. We're figuring out all of these bullshit problems as we go along. We don't know.
On one hand, Liam, like I kind of get what you're saying, and like I agree. Like I'd never want to support someone who's like anti, is a homophobe or transphobe or anything like that. But then on the other hand, as well, like
yeah,
when I think of my gay friends who like play games, I'd much rather them have to not live in a world where this kind of thing is common, where they're like, it's, you know what I mean?
I agreed. My youngest brother is gay as well, and he's not your atypical what people would expect. He's not very camp. He's not very overly gay in any way, shape, or form. But for him to like, have to play games and just even potentially stumble across something like that and be like, oh, and then go on Twitter, and for him to be like, hey, look, I really like your game. But, this is kind of not cool. This is not offensive. I want to, support your work and I enjoy it, but this is not cool. And then for the devs to come out with like an insincere apology and then to track back on that and then to be like, well, fuck you, you social justice warrior dickheads. Like, well, you can't censor us. And it's like, come on.
Once anyone uses that word, it's hard not to start judging.
Totally.
It's a weird world we live in now that we talk about this on a weekly basis. Yeah. Varying forms of it.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard so much about a game and know so little about what it actually was. Because there was...
The only thing I knew about it other than this was before it was called Iron Fury, it was called Iron Maiden, and then they got sued by Iron Maiden.
They can't catch a break.
Man, more innocent times.
Imagine being sued by Iron Maiden. You'd be like, fuck yeah, we made it.
It disappoints me because this is a game that I genuinely am actually interested in. I love me some Duke Nukem. It sure as hell would, don't get me wrong, it'd be weird as hell if Duke Nukem actually came out nowadays. But it's someone born 30 years ago. It's like hard for me to just not play Duke Nukem. It appeals to my sensibilities, I guess.
For guns, right?
That game has a great shotgun.
I was gonna say the other stuff, okay?
I think I am more of a Duke Nukem kid than a Doom kid. If I had one game to bring to me on an island, let's say,
we've talked
and
about
it had
this,
to be
George.
Yes, if it had to be either an old Doom game or a Duke Nukem 3D game, I would pick some WAD or one of those eDuke files to bring with me to the island because that shotgun feels better than the Doom shotgun. Anyways, now that I'm gonna get crucified.
Speaking of crucifixions.
Yes, we have some public punishment and humiliation to deal out with from our servants, our children, our subjects. First listener question this week comes from Thomas P., who says, if you could take an art style out of any game and apply it to any other game, which art style and game would you choose?
Cuphead, Street Fighter.
Oh my god. Oh, I was going to say...
God.
Ooh.
How do you
just
top that?
snapped that out.
I was gonna say Guilty Gear Street Fighter. That's way better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it might fit the budget too. Get the Skullgirls team to do it.
Yeah, hand drawn,
Fuck.
man.
Holy shit, how do you top that?
You just came up with that, and that's a really good one.
I mean, as soon as John said Guilty Gear as well, I'm like, fuck, like
That
that
would be
and
tight.
maybe another game,
My
like an
actual
action RPG.
really sad answer to
Yeah.
this is give Street Fighter 6 the art style of Street Fighter Alpha.
That would also be good.
Ooh.
I'd love Street Fighter Alpha 4. Like that's what I want.
Yeah, I'll be down for that.
Sounds like we like good hand placed 2D art here on this podcast.
Heck yeah.
I've been playing a lot of Guilty Gear recently as well, man. Ugh.
I love Guilty Gear, but I'm so trash at it, and I don't know if I'll ever be good. I play it, and I'm like, oh, this fucking one-eyed samurai is awesome, and then I get bodied for 10 matches, and I'm like, haha, I
Yeah.
like Guilty Gear.
Yeah, as I mentioned a couple of episodes ago, playing in a Japanese office with people who go to the arcade and play literally Guilty Gear against really good people, I am the fucking worst at this game. And yet still, it's so much fun to play
Oh,
and look at and
there's
cry
this,
over.
There's this announcer in the FGC, Majin Obama, and him and this other guy have this amazing like spiel on what it is to be Japanese playing Guilty Gear. And they have all these amazing terms like you take that coin and you put some soul on it and you fucking put it in there, and it's I'll link you guys. It's amazing. I sometimes I listen to it and then I go work out because it gets me so pumped.
I need to do this. Well, Matt ruined that question.
I'm sorry. There's plenty other good ones to pick
one
from,
up
like
it.
I was
super
thinking, like-
hot art style and some weird
Yeah.
thing.
I was thinking like Wind Waker art, but something completely different to the style of Zelda game.
Oh, how about Wind Waker or Metal Gear Solid?
Wow.
I could picture that.
George,
It
would you be down with that?
Yeah, because for stealth gameplay, you want like nice, clean, iconic representations of whatever state of alertness the guards are in all
I
the
mean,
time.
the first like dungeon for Wind Waker is a Metal Gear
Oh
Solid.
yeah, there is totally stealth in that.
That's the one. Every single
prison.
time in the history of humans at all, every single time anyone has played Wind Waker, they've sat down for a really long session and then taken a break at that part.
Yes,
Be
because
like a
they've been
Jet Set
thrown into the
Radio.
prison like 4 times.
I was thinking of doing something with Jet Set Radio.
Mm.
And I would like to see the art style from 13 slapped onto more things.
13?
Specifically stealth shooters. And there's one that it would make a great match for from the turn of the millennium called No One Lives Forever.
Oh yeah.
It's a Deus Ex style almost, not as open-ended or RPG, but a espionage first-person stealth game, and having a more cartoony art style. It's comedy. It's a comedy game too. There's some genuinely.
That's the starring the lady.
Oh yeah. Speaking of lady protagonists in FPS games, yeah, having a reboot of a No One Lives Forever game with some lively, cartoony Archer style cell shading would be great fun.
That's not the Austin Powers looking 60s one, right?
Yep, that's the one. Yep.
Oh, the
So
PS2
imagine an
game. Yeah, I remember.
An Austin Powers like first person shooter with a comedy cell shaded cartoon style that makes it look like a episode of Archer.
It's weird you were thinking that, like, yeah, because I was thinking of something like the opposite side of that, but in the same tandem of a James Bond style game in Dishonored style artwork.
So like regular shading, but everyone has long faces and anatomical weirdness.
Like, yeah, that weird, like a strange off-brand. You know how GoldenEye had like superimposed faces on all of the characters? Kind of like that, but
Yeah.
Dishonored artwork.
I could picture that. A Bond villain would be a lot of fun to see with a completely cartoon anatomy.
And James Bond just blinking all over the place.
Wingry Cross asks, what does considered indie and which considered dojin?
What?
Okay.
I'm assuming that what they mean here is what does it mean to be considered indie, or for Japanese artists, doujin?
Oh.
Well, what's the line that we differentiate? Why?
I
why
think
do we
John
use
probably
these
is better at
words?
handling this question than me.
Well, I think it's from what I gather, they're asking like a general question in terms of like when are you Indian, when are you not, or just Japanese like doujin, like
Which is a interesting, open-ended, inconclusive question that I'm sure we could get some.
For me, in regards to doujin usually refers to artwork that is made to do with
Independently, right?
already existing
Yeah.
IPs or
Oh.
property that already exists. So if you're making a doujin of like Fire Emblem, well, it's not indie if you make a game because it's already a intellectual property that exists.
Yeah.
Tends to be the line. That's why people call it like doujin or something like that. Whereas indie, of course, if you make your own game, it's your own artwork, blah blah blah, then I guess it's an indie game.
It's interesting though, because like say a company like Supergiant, like when they released Bastion, I would have considered them an indie studio. I wouldn't
Yeah.
now.
But Warner Brothers.
Right.
I remember when indie games first started popping out, the definition that I was using at the time was, oh, they're independently published. But nowadays, yeah, you can have a game like Bastion, people will still call it an indie game, but it was published by Warner Brothers, like a
But you wouldn't
major...
say, like, I wouldn't say Remedy, for example, speaking of Control, are like AAA.
Yeah, nowadays, I don't know if I like using the word indie. I'll still do it out of habit, but it's more like I'm trying to figure out where the line is between AAA and whatever anything else is.
I mean, Q, like, at our studio, Q, we have like 50 people, but we're technically an indie studio. Like, we make indie games. It's weird. It's such a weird line to draw.
So I heard a podcast a few years ago, the Super Best Friends cast, where I think since they had worked in the industry, I'm assuming they're going to know better than me. Their definition depended on the marketing budget. A AAA game, according to their terms, if I'm remembering it right, was a game that had a big marketing budget from the publisher's yearly efforts. And if they put enough money down to be on like cable television commercials, then that means there's enough money being invested in the game to consider it a AAA.
So does that make something like No Man's Sky, when it originally came out, a AAA game, even though it was made by like 10 people?
The lines are weird, but also No Man's Sky had that Sony funding behind it. So I don't know if I would want to call it an indie game either. And as for Joujin stuff in Japan, I wonder if it's actually easier to differentiate over there, where there is actually less of a indie low budget art scene where,
that's
where
definitely
the
not
corporate
true.
world is more dominant.
No, that's definitely not true. There is a huge indie scene here, but like Doujin, I think, for as far as I understand it, and John seems to as well, is that when you make something that already is off the back of an existing intellectual property, then that's when it's called.
Yeah.
It's like a
So
fan.
that's a qualifier.
It's like a fan game. Fan art.
So like original works made by fans that are independently published, are they still called doujins?
Well, if they're their own IP and their own artwork, maybe that's indie.
Like they could still be part of like a doujin scene. Like back in the day, Clamp got started because they kept making like a lot of comics about Jotaro and Kakuin from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And
no fucking
Yeah,
way,
yeah, yeah.
really? That's how Clamp
and
started.
then eventually they were just like, you know what? Let's change the hair, change the names, and start doing our own shit. And it was still the, I guess, dynamic that people liked about like a romantic relationship between Jotaro and Kakuin, but it was now original characters. So, but it was still in the doujin scene. Do you know what I mean? And so it's weird.
Yeah.
So it's weird. I guess it's just weird.
It's like all like kind of discussions about like genre and stuff like that, where it's like there's no real line at the end of it.
Oh yeah, video game genre discussion has gotten really interesting over the past few years because so many genres have really molded into the open world action game, and now I'm seeing like some really weird postmodern conversations on Twitter about how maybe the concept of genres themselves are outdated.
Kind of there.
I'm there.
One of
I'm
the most
definitely there.
infuriating arguments I ever had was with a friend at a party who said that Pokemon is not a JRPG, and we ruined that entire party for everybody.
We should have known about this before this episode. There seems to be a trail with you, John, of ruining.
Yeah,
Okay,
now you know.
If this is an argument that person actually brings up, then they're not fun at parties anyway. So
no, hang on, that's not fair. Neither of us are fun at parties.
Nice.
But who? I mean, I'm assuming it wasn't you that started the argument over Pokemon not being a JRPG.
No, but this is also a person who really likes to fuck with me. So for anyone who listens to the Bosscast, it's Neve from the Let's Fight a Bosscast. Yeah, it was no one won, everyone lost.
God.
It was bad news.
See, I wouldn't argue about that, but I would argue about the pronunciation of Pokemon with George at a party for sure.
Pokemon. I just want to point out that last week a fan sent us a discussion about what our favorite 2D platformers are, and did that start something? We couldn't decide if pre-Metroidvania Castlevanias count as platformers, if Super Metroid counts as a platformer. I just don't know if I'm ready to cause the hurt and the pain in the world that what I would cause if I called Super Metroid a platformer.
That was last week.
That was last week.
Yeah, but the line is blurring.
The limit of everything for me is like if you say like, oh, it's a Dark Souls game, that it just gives you a general impression of what the game is like. When you start drilling down into it and getting specific, nothing makes any sense anymore. It's like when scientists really, really dig down into like the physical properties of light, and it starts to get really abstract and philosophical. That's what genre is.
How do we know that gravity exists if that's the only way we can reliably measure time? No, it's how do we know time exists if gravity is the only proof that it exists?
Oh no!
Stop
it. Which makes those photos of the black hole really weird. Yeah.
Next question.
So yeah, we're cutting short on time here, so I thought I would shift out to a very small, simple question. Eyepatch Wolf might have some insight for this one. This is something I've been curious about myself, but it's specifically aimed at Liam.
Oh.
Fred S. asks, how does programming code look like in Japanese? Are file names and variables written with the Latin alphabet or in English, or is everything in Japanese?
God, this is not a question to ask me. As far as I know...
How is it adequate? You a game developer in Japan!
As far as I know, in regards to what I have seen... Japanese programmers will program completely in English code because functions and statements and variables and everything will be written in English already, especially if you're using pre-written libraries that you import into your classes or code or whatever. But a lot of the time they will comment code in Japanese and then they will save files in Japanese. But for the most part, it's all English language based. As you can imagine, like, it's hard to talk about code as a language. It's its own language. It uses pseudo English to break down stuff. So not really. They write in Romanji letters, Romanized stuff for the most part. As far as I gather. Someone might have a better understanding than I do about that.
There's so much to unpack here because Japanese game developers are infamously usually bad at English.
But code is not writing English. It's writing a sequence of stuff using letters. And all keyboards in Japan, even Japanese keyboards, have English Romanized letters on them.
We don't have to do that. They have to learn a whole new alphabet to code. And I'm sure a lot of it comes from education anyway, which is just weird for me to think about as an American, because we don't have to, like, we are not pressured into learning other languages.
We are. Like, and in Japan, there is so much English everywhere, like signs and textbooks and TV shows. There's just English everywhere. So it's like they see the letters all the time. And so people just have no idea what it means.
So weird for me. Like, you got to think back hard about what your earliest childhood memories are like to know what it's like to look at Roman letters and just not know what they mean. And I'm fascinated by trying to put myself in those shoes and actually do technical computer work in an alphabet I don't understand. That's a mind trip.
Well, it's like learning a language, isn't it? I guess if you're programming, you've just learnt a language, and you've learned to write in the alphabet.
And as an American, I can guarantee you I've tried like 3-4 times.
I don't know. It's just like learning a language, man. If you're learning Japanese, you'd be learning hiragana and katakana and kanji. So
We're so stupid, Liam. We're so dumb. I can't believe I didn't know Greenland was part of Denmark. I was tweeting about that, and there were Scandinavian fans who were saying, like, yeah, no, doesn't it say that on maps? No, it doesn't. We live in a different reality from the rest of the world in so many ways.
no, you live in an American reality.
And that reality is breaking.
It's quickish.
The lines are crossing.
Speaking of like anime and stuff like that, and this question, John, have you ever attempted to learn Japanese?
Never. It's about one of the only
Really?
like classic weeaboo things that I have not done.
Wait, have you gone to Japan?
Yeah, I have.
So you learned some on the way, like picking it up.
I mean,
No,
like,
George.
like I can be very threatening because I can repeat all the lines from Japanese fighting games, but that's about it.
Let's get one. Let me put you on the spot. Let's get one.
Nune, haenda yo.
Holy cow!
And what does it mean?
I don't know, but Akira says it in Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution.
Yeah. Oh man, those were the best, man. Street Fighter Alpha.
Having people just repeat anime lines all the time is both funny and also just strange here.
I was about to like say, oh, well, that won't get you very far. But as I remember it, if you did that in a restaurant, they'd probably just like laugh and serve you some noodles.
Yeah.
Or just have no idea what Virtua Fighter is and think you are attacking them.
I did have a really great exchange with a Japanese waiter. I brought a Vegeta t-shirt to Japan, and then when I got there, I was like, oh, I can never wear this.
That happens so much.
And then like the last night we were there, I was like all out of t-shirts, and so I had to wear it to this like really nice restaurant. And me and my partner were there, and we had a great time. And then when we were leaving, like a waiter walked us to the elevator, and then he just kind of pointed at my t-shirt, and then he kind of pointed the palm of his hand to the floor, and he just goes, "Big Bang Otaku." And I loved that so much.
Oh, that's good.
He was great.
I get to talk about dumb shit like this every day. I love it. It's so good. We were trying to design something today, and the only way I could describe it was the Yamcha in a hole death visual. And I was like,
Yep.
I was trying to explain, and my Japanese was failing, and I was like, you know, when you slam in the ground and you make cracks, you know, like a crater. And I was like, what the fuck is Japanese for crater? And I was like, I have no idea. You know when Yamcha is like dead, like Yamcha the shinde ne, and he's like, so ne ne ne, and I'm like, that one. And we Google image it, and he's like, yeah, so this ne, and I'm like, you got that. Everything's good.
Wow.
Life is weird.
Everything's good. Life is good. Life is okay. Life is at least okay here on the Dad and
This
Sons
episode
cast.
has been at least okay.
Thanks so much for showing up and coming on, Eyepatch.
Oh, my pleasure. Genuinely, I had a blast.
The first host that's been on time. On time. Oh, sorry. I had to get that out.
Before
You're good in my book, John.
John, before Matt dies of coughing, let the lovely people know who've listened so far, if they don't already know who the fuck you are, where they can find you and stuff like that.
Okay, you can find me at Super Eyepatch Wolf on YouTube, and then I also host the Let's Fight a Boss video game podcast. It's the world's strongest video game podcast.
Whoa. Oh wait. So
big
yeah.
words.
I mean, you technically win. We don't actually talk about video games.
It's so true.
Oh, it usually takes us a good 40 or 50 minutes to get there.
Oh man, we wholly understand.
We're a personality-driven comedy podcast with game theme. I don't know. Wait, no, I know what to say in this situation. I just think that like genres and labels are limiting elitist constructions.